and I will deliver you and this city from the hand of the king of Assyria. I will defend this city. The 7th verse. This is the Lord's sign to you that the Lord will do what he has promised. I will make the shadow cast by the sun go back the 10 steps it has gone down on the stairway of Ahaz. So the sunlight went back the 10 steps it had gone down. I'm going to hold off. I'm going to stop. In order for you to get the victory, I'm going to stop the spinning of the earth, and I'm going to add 15 years to your life. The 2nd verse is what I'm going to focus in on, and we're going to get into this. Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and prayed to the Lord. Let's talk about right now. I'm armed and dangerous. Part 4, I'm snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Hear this word here. How do you do that? I want you to grab something now. First of all, when you are in trouble, pray. In our text, we see Hezekiah is in trouble. The prophet Isaiah has showed up to pronounce that he should make funeral arrangements because he was going to die. Now, how would you like the preacher to show up at your house and say, look, it's over, baby? I mean, come on. If I showed up, ding dong, who's at the door? It's Bishop. Oh my God, Bishop is visiting us. Open the door, come in. Bishop, you want some coffee? No, I'm not a coffee drinker. Bishop, you want some tea? No, not really. I don't have a whole lot of time. Well, Bishop, why are you here? You want something to eat? No, I don't really want anything to eat. Well, Bishop, is there something wrong? Yes, but not with me, with you. Make funeral arrangements because you're going to die. Now, what kind of pastoral visit is that? You about to say, come on up in here. Will you leave? Well, that's what happened with Hezekiah. The man of God, Isaiah. Now, think about this. This man is a true prophet, and he comes to your house, and he says this, and it says, it's over, Dover. This is a defeat waiting. All it takes is a few days for it to happen. But you have to understand something, that no matter what, and no matter how difficult things come, and no matter how much the problem is, there are still some things you can do. It is not over. One of the most formidable weapons you have in your arsenal as a Christian is prayer. You don't have to call God's secretary. You don't have to try to get on God's calendar. You don't have to try to get a number and wait. You have a direct line straight to God's ear. Oh, my Lord. You can't get in to see the president. You can't get in to see the governor. You know what? I'm doing podcasts. I'm a podcast guy now. I enjoy podcasting and I enjoy interviewing people. And God has blessed me to interview some really, what can I say? Some famous folk, some really important politicians, the governor, the senators, state senators, just people. I mean, some awesome people. That God has given me that opportunity. But I had to go through some of everything. My executive assistant, Dagny, oh my God, she's going back and forth, emailing. We got to time it right. You got to make sure now you only know you have X amount of time. The staff, they be on the phone listening. They texting us, you're out of time, cut it off. It's finished. You don't see any of that, but that's what be going on behind the scenes. It takes days, sometimes weeks to get one interview for all of that. But with God, I'm in trouble. I am in a place of defeat. And that's what Hezekiah does. The man of God came to see him. It's over. And Hezekiah turns his face toward the wall and cries out. Immediately, he gets through to God. No secretary, no emailing, no texting, nobody on the other line. saying, get off. How do we do this? What's going on? Let me give you a little more the context of the text, and then we're going to get into these points to help you. What is actually happening here is this. Hezekiah is reflective of Israel. Now, let me pause here and say something to you. This is why you need to be careful when you start talking about, I want to be a man of God or a woman of God. I want to be a bishop. I want to be that, and I want to be this. Because many times what God is doing in the life of people, he does through the man or woman of God so that they may be the visible example of what he is doing and can do in the earth. Same thing he does with Hosea. Hosea, Israel is messing around on me. And he turns Hosea's life into that example of his wife now messing around on him. So here we have the same thing with Israel. Israel is full of sin and they need to die. And God is saying to Hezekiah, you are going to die just like Israel. And Hezekiah says, look, God, let Israel live and me too. Wow. So you have to understand something. That brings us to the very first thing in terms of snatching your victory out of the jaws of defeat. You got to understand that when you pray, you must pray God's agenda, number one. Because Hezekiah prays God's agenda. He says, I know it's on me, but in actuality, it's Israel that you're manifesting through me. Israel ought to be taken out, and you're taking me out. So God, would you change this? Listen, here it is. You need to grab a hold of this, because in Matthew 6:10, it says this, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. You know that as part of the Lord's Prayer, as we say. But notice what Jesus does as a way, or the manner in which is how the text is read. This is the manner in which you pray. You pray in this manner. And the manner is that you pray the will of God. I know that you have word teachers that will tell you, you say what you want from God. And when you say, pray the will of God, it's like you weak. You got milquetoast faith and all that kind of stuff. It takes more faith to say God's your will by identifying it through his word than it does by dictating to God as if you can tell God what to do. No, you need to tell and say the will. Now, what's his will? Understand this. His will or testament is this word. Understand that. The New Testament is his word. His will, notice the connection. The will is what is read at the death of somebody. Jesus died that we might have his will or his testaments or what his inheritance is. So when I pray his will, I'm praying his agenda, and Hezekiah prays God's agenda. First thing you have to know, when I am up against it, when defeat is right on me, when I have my head in the jaws of the lion, when I'm in the fiery furnace, when I ain't got a dime to my name, when there's more month than money, when my back is against the wall, understand, pray his will. Your will be done in my life, that I might be an example of what you're doing in the earth. That's the first thing. The second thing is this: prayer that is heartfelt, sincere, and gut-wrenching. Heartfelt, sincere, and gut-wrenching. That's what he does. He cries out. He turns his face toward God and he's to the wall, and it is heartfelt, sincere, and gut-wrenching. It's kind of like this: when the children of Israel, for 400 years, they prayed that prayer. God, would you deliver us from this situation, this bondage? Now, I know what you're saying when I brought that example up. I heard you in the spirit. I already heard you. You said, Bishop, I ain't got 400 years. I ain't got 40 years. This is what you do have. You got 40 minutes. You got 40 days. You got 40 seconds. Why am I emphasizing 40 or 40? 40 is the number of testing. 400 years was just simply a multiple of 40. So you need to know that whenever you want something from God, sometimes you have to know that I've got to come with some multiple or some 40 sequence, if you will. 40 is the number of generations in which we say that's a generation. So please understand that when we go hard in for God, that I have a sincere, heartfelt, gut-wrenching prayer. It's as a result of me wanting to go 40. I want to do 40 minutes, 40 seconds, whatever that case may be. And I'm going in. And that's what Hezekiah does. Here's the third thing I need you to grab. Prayer that has feet on it. Verse 21. Isaiah had said, prepare a poultice of figs and apply it to the boil, and he will recover. Hezekiah got up and did it. This is how you're going to recover. But you got to do something. You can't just pray. You got to put feet on your prayers. You got to put feet on your faith. You got to put some action behind your believing. In fact, faith in some ways, in somewheres, in some scriptures, in James is defined and interpreted as not only believing, but doing. We think of believing as cognitive, something I think. In the book of James, when we talk about faith and deeds or faith and works, there is no differentiation between believing and doing. So if I believe, I do. And that's what he does. He says, I got to put something on this boils. I got to move. I got to act. So I got to put feet on my prayers. I got to have a heartfelt, sincere, gut-wrenching prayer. And I have to pray God's agenda. Here is the fourth thing, and that is prayer backed up with a life of faithfulness. Look at verse 3. It says, remember, Lord, how I have walked before you faithfully with wholehearted devotion and have done what is good in your eyes. And Hezekiah wept bitterly. He wept bitterly. Hezekiah was calling in the chips. He was pushing them in.
$40,500,000 all in.
Raise only.
So look at here. God, look, I'm pushing all the chips in. I'm calling in my chips. God, I've lived before you. There are times when you go to God and pray. You say, look, God, I'm doing all I can. My mother used to say, son, I'm living the best I know how. I'm living the best I know how. There are times when you have to, if you don't say it to God, you need to say it to yourself. I'm doing the best I can. God, there's a life behind me. I just didn't roll up here today, God. I've been living for you. Will you move, God, on my behalf? Excuse me. Will you move on my behalf? There's a life of faithfulness, and I have a record, God. I know I ain't been all that. I know there's been some ups and downs. I know I have not lived a life completely without sinning, because the word says that we've all have sinned and fallen short. But God, I do know this. I love you. I want to live for you, and I'm moving forward in you. I'm pushing in all the chips. Here's number 5. God will answer. There are 3 ways that he's going to help you in answering the prayer. The first is with a word. In verse 4 and 5 and 6. Then the word of the Lord came to Isaiah. Go and tell Hezekiah, this is what the Lord, God, has said. The God of your father David says, I have heard your prayer. I have seen your tears. I will add 15 years to your life, and I will deliver you and this city from the hand of the king of Assyria. I will defend this city. This is my city, and I will defend this city. So the first thing you need to know, that when God is getting ready to snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat on your behalf, listen for a word. Listen for a word. For many of you, your word is tonight. Others of you, it might be a word in a song. Still others of you might be on social media and you see somebody post something and that's your word. Others of you, it may be just riding in the car and somebody says something, or it bubbles up in your spirit. There's going to be a word. It's going to be a word that is spoken unto you. That's what he says to him. Says, and then secondly to that, after there's a word, there's going to be a sign. That's a sign. There's going to be a sign. Verse 7 and 8 says, this is the Lord's sign to you that the Lord will do what he has promised. Number 8, I will make the shadow cast by the sun go back the 10 steps it has gone down on the stairway of Ahaz. So the sunlight went back the 10 steps it had gone down. Look at God. Showed him a sign. Gideon, he needed a sign as well. And he got that sign. You need to grab a hold of the fact that when God comes through to snatch victory out of the jaws of defeat, he's going to give you a word. He's going to give you a sign. Here's the third thing under the final point. There's going to be a response that you've got to have. Go and tell Hezekiah, this is what the Lord, the God of your father, David, has says. I've heard your prayer and seen your tears. I will add, here it is. I'm going to give you 15 years. Here's the response. Here's the response. You need to know something sometimes, that when you go and cry out to God and ask him, you need to know that he is going to answer your prayer. He's going to give you a word. He's going to give you a sign. There's going to be a response. It is impolite for you to talk to God and he not respond. God is very polite. Problem is, many times we think that prayer is such a drudgery, it's such a work, it is such arduous type of work that we could, because we feel like I'm not going to get an answer. But know this, God does not sit down with you and hear you and not respond. That's impolite, and God doesn't do that. Hezekiah, prayer snatched victory out of the jaws of defeat. He lived 15 more years. That's grace times 3. The number of grace is 5. God will do the same for you when you pray God's agenda, when your prayer is heartfelt, when you put feet on your prayers, you back it up with a faithful life. You wait for the answer and know that his answer is going to come with a response, with a sign or a word. Believe God. You're armed and dangerous to deal with any problem or situation you're going through right now, because God has you. If you believe that, you're struggling right now, I want you to text the word decision to 71441. Text the word decision to 71441, and we'll respond. We'll connect with you. You can be a part of our campus online, or you can come in our limited offering of worship on Sunday at 9:30. We'd love to have you in either way you want to be a part of New Life. Just text the word to 71441. I'm going through, Bishop. I'm having difficulties, Bishop. I'm having problems, Bishop. But no, you got the victory. Hang in there. God bless you. May heaven's face shine upon you, give you peace. I'll see you next Wednesday with more of how you are armed and dangerous to win any battle you're dealing with right now. Bye now.
Life Changers, before you stop looking at eChurch, don't forget to give your tithes, offering, and generosity matching. There are multiple ways to give. May God bless you, and thank you for watching eChurch.
It's Popcorn and Such. We don't make ordinary popcorn at Popcorn and Such. Each kernel is infused with ingredients that gives you a unique flavor and taste. Firecracker cheddar, bacon and cheddar, and our version of Chicago style with caramel, cheddar, and butter infused on every kernel, and many other flavors for you to enjoy. For simply the best gourmet popcorn, it's Popcorn and Such, located at 1920 Lebanon Avenue in Belleville, Illinois.
IDEX Media does a lot. From IDEX Photography to IDEX Films. We help create forever memories and forever impressions. Image a nation, image a world. IDEX Media.